welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. One really quick bit of advice that I will give you is just like the banana peel that you can see on the floor here. Now that the tomatoes are ripening, don't be tempted to pick all of the ripe tomatoes straight away, because these ripe tomatoes will most certainly send the neighbouring tomatoes ripe as well. So just like the banana skin helps out, the riper tomatoes will sort of ripen off the other ones as well. So as you can see, all of these here are sort of quite green, and the weight of them, I mean, there's got to be sort of 500 grams of tomatoes there. What I am doing is sort of leaving the tomatoes on a little bit longer than perhaps you'd be tempted to pick these, but what that'll do is it'll sort of send out the scent or whatever to the other plants and the other tomatoes, and it will start to send these ripe as well. So what you do find with tomato plants is as soon as one starts to ripen, the others round it will ripen as well, and that's basically that's not by chance. That's in fact because one's ripening, the others are starting to go as well. So just a quick tip: don't pick all of the ripe tomatoes off if you want the others to ripen as well, because these will help the others to ripen around them. Quick update on the spinach. This is the spinach we put in last week, and as you can see, it's growing quite well. I've got a couple of cells that I haven't quite popped through yet, but by far the majority of it is doing quite well. So all being well, in about 2 or 3 weeks' time, this should be kind of up here, and we'll be able to pot it, sort of plant it out into the garden where the potatoes were. Another really quick update on the spinach. As you can see, that's really growing now. That's a week on from the previous video, so that'll be ready to go in the ground in the next 2 or 3 weeks. Okay, so just want to do some of the comments that have come over in the last week or so. The first one comes from Brian Hubry, and he was saying about the lavender, and he does his lavender slightly differently to me. Now, in all honesty, Brian, there's no pattern to me taking cuttings. When I was quite young, I used to take loads of cuttings of fuchsias, particularly was one that I always used to get a lot of cuttings from, and I used to grow hundreds of them every year and sell them as pocket money when I was sort of 14, 15. And lavender's another plant that I used to take quite a lot of cuttings of. And you're right, you can take them pretty much at any time of the year. If there's some fresh growth on there with a bit of sort of last year's sort of more woody material, they're all good for taking cuttings. Now, last year I took these cuttings towards the end of the year, but you're right, what you can do is you can take them pretty much all year round. If you've got a fresh bit of growth and sort of take a cutting off there and put it in, you can grow them on. Now, the one thing that Brian said is he always takes his late summer, so probably around now sort of time, and he was saying what he does is he takes the cuttings off the sort of the bushes, anything that hasn't got a flower on, and then he pots them up as soon as they've rooted. He sort of overwinters them in the cold frame, and then he pops them up in the summer for the next year. Which I'm actually going to do that with these, to be honest with you, Brian, because what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to trim these down a little bit to make them more, a bit more bushy. And what I'll be doing is the bits that I trim off, I'll be taking cuttings off these. So these are the ones that I grew from cuttings, and what I'll be doing is taking cuttings off the cuttings, if you like, as they're sort of growing. So I'll have loads of sort of lavender plants to put out next year. The next one comes from Patrick Miam, and he was saying about he's had loads of caterpillars on his broccoli, just like we have. And he said, well, basically what he's been doing is going around and taking them off by hand, which is always the best way, because you're using no chemicals or anything like that. It's not the nicest thing. You might need to put gloves on if you're a bit squeamish, but I would go around and I'd just put my fingers through and all the rest of it. And Brian and Patrick said he's absolutely, he's got rid of all the caterpillars now, and he's got absolutely no, sort of evidence of them on his plants at all. So it is a really effective way of doing it. It's a little bit time consuming because you've got to go around and sort of find them and put your finger through them, like, but. It is most certainly possibly one of the oldest methods of doing it, and it's probably one of the best methods of doing it as well. The next comment comes from David Juice, I think that's the way he pronounces it, and he was saying about how the runner beans are late. Now, they're most certainly late. This time last year, I've kind of had a look back on the videos that I did last year, to be honest with you, and the photographs that I was taking, and you can see the difference. This time last year, if you imagine the bean row at the top was kind of 3 foot across, and there was beans everywhere, and I was picking possibly 2 kilos or so a day. And actually this time last year I had a look back in my my records, but by now this time last year I'd already frozen 36 kilos of beans, and we'd already eaten about 10 kilos of beans. So typically, because we're a family of 5, we typically eat about 1 kilo of beans per meal. And so we'd had 10 meals, and we'd had sort of 36 meals worth, if you like, sort of blanched and put away in the freezer. So this time last year we were going on for 50 kilos. So far this year it's nowhere near that. It's not even half that, to be honest with you. So but however, having said that, we've still got plenty of time to go. And as I've said, I sent a comment back to Dave, to be honest with you. I am actually going to go on holiday in a week or so's time. I'm not going to be here for a week, so what I'm going to do is, just before I go on holiday, I'm going to give the beans a really good watering, and then I'm going to pick off all of the beans that are anywhere close to being sort of harvested. What I'll do is I'll chop all them up and freeze them, and then, all being well, in the week that I'm away, I shan't have too many that sort of develop in that too far, so I can't use them. Now if they do sort of go too far, what I'll do is basically leave them on the plant for seed for next year, so they won't be wasted or anything like that. But it's always the case where it doesn't matter how you grow things. I always try and aim to go on holiday sort of at the back end of August, which is when most of the crops have already been done. But the weather this year is has kind of scuppered that a little bit, because stuff's coming now. A lot of the tomatoes are coming now, the beans are coming now, and there's the stuff that's coming now. But by the time I come back off holiday, it may have gone over. That's the look of the draw, really. So, but yeah, we are definitely behind on the beans, but there's a reasonable amount of the season left, so they will catch up. I mean, this this time last year, really, the beans had already passed the best, where at the moment they haven't really sort of got there yet. So we have still got sort of 2 or 3 good months left of the season, so I'm pretty sure we're going to get the beans. They're just going to be slightly later than they were last year, or sort of years gone by. Next one comes from just for fun, Tim, and Tim was asking me, why do you grow lavender? There's 2 good reasons for growing lavender. One, slugs absolutely hate lavender, so if you've got an area in your garden that is particularly slug prone, if you plant lavender there, slugs don't like lavender. Second reason for growing lavender is I like to dry it, and the little flowers, we pull them off and we make little bags, and my daughter puts them in drawers and stuff like that. Plus they're a nice plant to have in your garden, and in all honesty, another good reason why I grow it is when I was a child, my parents used to grow it in the garden, so when I smell lavender it always reminds me of my childhood, to be honest, so that's another good reason for growing it. But I don't typically grow lavender in the allotment, it's always in the garden. And I've got a really big lavender bush in my garden, and that's kind of about I don't know, probably about 4 foot high. This lavender bush is absolutely massive, and that's absolutely beautiful. It's in flower at the minute, so that's always a nice thing to see. And with lavender, it's really easy to keep. You just cut it down, at the end of the year or at the start of the year, and then it grows up, and it's it's a very rewarding plant, and it's. You don't need to water, with it being an herbaceous plant, you don't need to water it too much. You don't need to worry about watering it and stuff like that. It just grows, and it's it's a good plant. It's a good hardy plant, and it's nice to look at, and it smells lovely as well. So it's all good, really. It ticks all the boxes. And slugs don't like it. The next one comes from Mark Davidson, and we were having a little bit of a conversation in the week about the clover compost that I was talking about last week. It is really good stuff. I can't push this stuff enough, to be honest with you. It is really good quality stuff, and there isn't many composts on the market now for that's a bit finer, the finer sort of the finer tilled stuff, like this. There aren't that many good composts on the market. Clover's one of them, and it's not, funnily enough, it's not that easy to find. I'm not aware of any garden centres, at least in my area, that sell it. I always go to the Allotment Society to get mine, and as I say, it's three 75 litre bags for £10, so you can't go wrong really. But if you go on the internet, I have found a site called www.cloverpeat, all one word, .co.uk, and on there they've actually got the list of the distributors in the UK. So if you're not in the UK, just search for clover peat or just clover, and you should find outlets in your area if there are any. So just hunt around for it. It is well worth hunting for because it is good stuff. It's not particularly expensive, and and it's I wouldn't say that it's the kind of product where it's fantastic for vegetables. The sort of nutritional value in it isn't perhaps as good as some others. It's not like Miracle Grow where that that'll support a plant for a good 3 or 4 months. The clover compost really is good for probably around sort of 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that, which is ideal for vegetables because that's where you want to grow them up and then sort of get them in the garden. So so by the time that time's up, they're in the ground. So it's ideal for vegetables. If you're a vegetable grower, clover peat is most certainly ideal for you. But if you're growing plants in pots, if you do use clover peat, you need to augment it with something else. You need to put some, sort of, I don't know, slow release fertilizer in there, or some, or basically feed the plants with whatever, because it won't sustain them for more than sort of 2 months or so. But it is, sort of, from a fibre and a sort of moisture retaining compost, it's one of the best on the market in my estimation. Right, the next one comes from Marina Wilson, and she was talking about a little tip that she's got that she uses for killing aphids and flies and stuff like that. And to be honest with you, it's one of these things where you learn something every day. I did know that tomatoes and potatoes were part of the deadly nightshade family, but in all honesty, I never put 2 and 2 together. So what Marina's Wilson's actually suggested, and what she actually does, and what she asked me to suggest today to everybody, is what you can do if you get the leaves from tomato plants and sort of grind them up and make yourself up like a paste or something like that. Add water to it, shake it all up, exactly like we do the garlic. You can actually use that in a sprayer to spray against aphids, black fly, white fly, green fly, and stuff like that, because there is sort of poisons or whatever in the leaves that will kill the flies off for you. Now, she is right. She did say in a comment that you never see aphids on tomato plants, and she is dead right. You never see aphids on tomato plants, so there's obviously something in it. I did say I was going to have a go, but I haven't got around to it yet. But what I will be doing is stripping some of the leaves back on the tomato plants, and I'll be sort of cutting them up and spraying the beans. But I did go down and pick a load of beans this week. Which is another comment I just wanted to quickly say. But I noticed all the black fly, the ones that I'd sprayed with garlic, were all dead. They're all still on the plant, but they're all dead. There's no movement there at all. So I've killed them off with garlic, so I haven't got any black fly about at the minute. But what I will do is I'll have a look around my neighbours' allotments. If there's any black fly, I'll just ask them if I can just quickly spray and have a go. But get the tomato leaves, chop them up, so crush them up would probably be better. Or sort of liquidise them or whatever. Make up a liquid, and then obviously spray it onto plants that that are being attacked with aphids, and that'll kill them off. So thank you very much, Marina Wilson, for that tip. Thank you very much indeed. I hope that's of use to people. The comment I wanted to say about the runner beans was I started to put together the spreadsheet where I always what I always do is when I harvest stuff, not when I'm just picking bits and bobs, but what I'll do is if I pick a load of something, what I'll do is I'll just quickly weigh it and make a note of what I've picked. And what I do at the end of the year is I just tot up, and it's just for me really, just to sort of say how much money I've spent on the allotment every year and how much sort of produce I get out of it, if you like, that we use. And it's just for me really, it's just like a sanity check. Now this week I picked, believe it or not, 9 kilos of runner beans in one go, and I chopped all them up and along with my family, and we sort of boiled them up and froze them. But I went on Tesco's site just to price them up, just to do a price compare, and they're actually the £4.50 a kilo in Tesco's at the moment, fresh runner beans. And if you work that out, I actually picked £45 worth of runner beans this week, which is ridiculous when you think about it. But I mean, it was a big sort of tub of them. It was quite big, and it took us an hour or so to cut them all up and boil them and all that. But it's it's amazing. You don't realise how much stuff you're actually making on the allotment. But there was £45 worth of runner beans picked this week alone. So it's it's all worthwhile. If I'd have gone to the shop, that's exactly how much it would have cost. The next comment comes from Richard Sydenham, and he was talking about the tomatoes being behind. And they are definitely behind. I think they're not only behind, I don't think they're anywhere near as good as they were last year. I've noticed that these sort of tomato plants have most certainly stalled. Particularly these that I've got down this side, they're just not growing any bigger. No, they've been kind of this height now for a month, and they just haven't got any bigger. These ones have sort of got to the top, and I've taken the top out, and I've got loads of sort of cherry tomatoes coming here and that. But all of the other plants now, they've all started. The leaves have started to die off, and all the fruit started to ripen, and there's no more kind of fruit trusses or growth at the top of the plants. So I'm pretty sure the plants are stalled, and that's pretty much it. I don't think they're going to grow anymore this year. So at the look of it, even though the plants are quite laden at the bottom of the fruit, I think I'm going to end up with something like half of the fruit that I had last year, because there just doesn't seem to be any more growth in the plant. Most certainly these ones at the back here, they haven't grown anywhere near as good as they were last year. So I think the tomato crop is nowhere near as good as it was last year, and I think it is primarily down to the weather conditions that we've had, to be honest with you, again. But I can't see these plants growing any more than they are at the moment, and they're all starting to die off now. So I think pretty much that's it for the tomatoes this year. I mean, you do get good years and bad years for every crop really, but this year, because the weather's been so hot and dry and changing, we've had sort of hot days, really hot sort of days, and we've had almost no rain really for the start of the year, and we've had sort of cold evenings and hot days, and that's really sort of made the plants struggle a little bit this year. But most certainly the tomatoes are nowhere near as good as they were last year, and I don't think they go any better than they are now, because they're all ripening off. I've got most of the tomatoes now as turning, so there aren't that many green ones now. There's loads of red ones. I'll show you later on. I'll take the camera around, but apart from this one plant here, they're all pretty much turning red. The next, Richard had another comment. He was saying that he does harvest his tomatoes well into October, so he's I'm not quite sure where in the world he is, but I mean, there is chance yet for these tomatoes to potentially grow, but most certainly in the UK I can't see them doing any more than they are. And I've seen other friends and that have got tomatoes, and they're pretty much the same as this. I don't think I've done anything wrong, to be honest with you. I just think the way that they are. The tomatoes that are outside have done really well. I think tomatoes outside have done better than tomatoes inside this year, and I think that's because of the weather. But the one comment that Richard did say was he uses some stuff to water the plants with. I'm not sure if he's watering them or spraying them, to be honest with you, but it's a substance that's called Pechnelkin extract. I'll write it across the bottom of the screen, so I'm not quite sure how you pronounce it, but that's basically some substance which is blight resistant. I'm not sure if he's spraying it or if he's watering the plants with it. I would imagine he's spraying it on the plants, but he says he never has blight on his potatoes, tomatoes. So as I say, I'll put that across the bottom of the screen, and if you have got a problem with blight, that's possibly something to look at. The next one comes, the last comment comes from Jacqueline Bramhall, and she's got experience of using clover compost as well. and she said she's used it for quite a few years now, and she always gets really good results. And she said she also buys hers from the Allotment Society by her. So I think it's quite popular with allotmenteers, you know, gardeners and stuff like that, because a lot of the seemingly a lot of the allotment societies are stocking it. But it doesn't seem so popular in garden centres. Not quite sure why. I don't know if they've got deals with the likes of other, you know, compost producers, and I think possibly because it's got some peat in it as well. It's possibly why some garden centres aren't touching it, and it's possibly because you know, there's a government incentive to push recycled materials to, you know, to be used as compost as well. So that's possibly it. But allotment societies are most certainly stocking it. It's great for vegetables. It's ideal for vegetables. And as I say, if you do want to try the clover compost, go on www.cloverpeat.co.uk, and on there's a list of the distributors in the UK. Okay, so I'm just trimming back the Justerberry bushes, which are the ones that have been pleached, shall we say. So basically, any ones that are coming in the wrong direction, I'm basically just going to chop those branches straight off. And basically, what you want to do is any suckers or anything like that that are coming off the main branch. Now, that one there is kind of leading in the same direction. So what I could have is another branch running this way. But these ones that are going across, what I'm doing is cutting them back so that there's one, just one little shoot on the side there. So chop them back as well, and then that's going to go over there. Now this one here, I don't know if you can see that. It's just at the front, that's kind of facing that way. So what I'm going to do is just chop that off. Basically, what you're doing is you're trimming out all of the branches that are sort of going in the wrong direction. Now, with some cable ties, what I'm going to do is now tie in the branches that are left into the main sort of cable. And so this is just rolling around here. And basically, what you want to do is put the cable tie on, so it's reasonably loose. I don't know if you can actually see that from where you are. What I'll do is I'll just move the camera around so you can see. So this is the branch here. Now this one that's coming from the this is the one that's coming from the tree. There doesn't seem to be any sort of shoots or anything on there. So what I'm going to do is just cut that back a little bit to there. Hopefully that will that's reasonably sort of dry. So I don't know if that's going to grow again, to be honest with you. But we can always get another shoot next year. There's actually some buds near the trunk of it. And all I'm doing is gently putting tying the branch back onto the wire. And as you can see, this is kind of that's the old wood there, and then this is the new wood. So I'm just going to tie it loosely there. And what I'm doing is putting the cable ties round the wire and round the stalk, but I'm not pulling the cable tie absolutely taut. You know, there's still a bit of give in it, if you like. And I'm just going to bend that new branch down a little bit and put the first one there, about kind of 6 inches apart. These are going. As you can see, all I'm doing is I'm not pulling it taut. I'm just, you know, there's still a reasonable amount of sort of give in that, because obviously the branch, as it grows, it'll get sort of wider, and you need to keep your eye on it, because obviously as the branches grow, this will start to eventually strangle the. Let's get these few weeds out whilst I'm here. So that's that branch tied in. So I'm basically just going to continue up with the next branch. I'll show you the next branch from another angle. Okay, so this branch here, as you can see, the plant will naturally want to grow upwards, but what I'm going to do is, this branch is coming from just here, starting up. So what I'm going to do is just put a cable tie around there, just to hold it in that position there. Again, it's not too tight, there's still a reasonable amount of movement in there. And all I've done here is I've, don't know if you can see that, but I've put 3 cable ties together because I need the length. I'm just going to bend that branch down so it's running along there.
and as I say, these ties are around sort of 6 inches apart, and then I'll tie that again off. Now this one here, I don't know if you can see that, but that's the next one which is going to go across. So the first thing I need to do is tie that in to the wire. I'll just move the camera again so you can see what I'm doing. Okay, so here's the branch here. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull it in and just tie that off against the wire, like that. Let's get the cable tie. Absolute godsend cable ties are. So as you can see, that's sort of reasonably loose. And then I'm going to put the next cable tie just over here. Now what I don't want to do is stress the branch. So that's going about 6 inches away. You'll be able to see when I take my hand out of the way. So as you can see, I've tied it here and then I've tied it there. Just move the camera up slightly so you can see. And then I'll keep tying that along as it runs along the wire. So there you go. So I've trimmed off all of the branches here, what I've chopped off here, and I've chopped off a reasonable amount. But what you want to do is do this sort of often and rather than sort of leaving it too long between. So this one's then been tied in. This one's now tied into here. As you can see, the ties aren't too sort of tight on there. But basically, you're sort of encouraging it to grow sideways, which isn't exactly natural for it. This one here is a little bit short, but that will eventually kind of go along this structure here. And then the top bit there, I just need to tie that up against the wire, get the sunflower leaf out of the way. So that needs to be tied up there, so that will carry on growing upwards. So here's another really good example. So here's one that's sort of grown a couple of foot since I last tied it back. So I'm just going to tie it here, exactly the same way, and tie it at the end just to keep it going horizontal. So there you go. So that's all tied all in. And this one here is tied down onto the wire again. What I need to do is obviously the same here. So this one that's growing up right here needs to be pulled down onto this wire and tied along that wire like that. And then this one here needs to be pulled down onto this wire and tied along like that. This one here again tied down onto the wire. So I'll just tie all of these down like that. So I'll have a couple of branches going this way on this wire. So I'll just tie that every kind of 6 inches going along. Okay, so there we go. So there's the top branch tied into the cable to the end, and then these two branches here I've just shown you tied in, and then at the end there. So it's all going along the wire. So that's it, finished for now. There's no other branches that really need tying up. There's nothing coming up from the top. I've just tied the top in there just to anchor that a little bit. Now the trees haven't really grown anywhere near as quick as the justerberry bushes, so these don't really need tying in right now. They are still growing. As you can see, they've sort of gone a little bit, but I might put a cable tie on there just to hold that down. But you need to be aiming to get them about kind of 6 inches long. Okay, so a quick look around the greenhouse, and I think what I'll do actually is I'll try and find a video from this time last year so you can see the difference, but so it's a little bit more obvious. But as you can see, the cucumbers are actually starting to pick up. So we've got a reasonable amount of fresh growth at the top, and we've got some little cucumbers forming there. And as you can see, where they was kind of struggling when they were growing this part here, there's not many cucumbers there at all really. But as you can see, they're all starting to sort of pick up. I mean, this time last year these were well over here, but as I say, I'll try and find a video. I can't promise I'll put one in this episode, but just to show the difference. So the tomatoes, as you can see, they're all sort of ripening off. We've got some red ones at the back there, so there's plenty of tomatoes, and this one here at the back is quite sort of heavily laden, so that's doing really well. And the cucumber that's running along the bottom here seems to be considerably happier than the ones that are going up and over. But then, as you can see, the tomatoes at the back there, they're all ripening quite nicely. Now I've chopped quite a few of the branches off, but as you can see, all round this, the sort of tomatoes are ripening. These sort of cherry ones here are doing really well. But I was expecting, in all honesty, like these plants to have grown kind of up to here. and therefore to be you know, sort of more fruit on them. Now these plants at the front here, these are the Alicante plants, and I'm not sure if they grow differently to the moneymaker that I normally grow, but this one here is also Alicante. So this front one here, if you remember, the front row along here was Alicante and the back row was moneymaker. So these ones here are sort of growing really well, and we've still got kind of fruit trusses forming at the top here. So on this one I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 fruit trusses. These ones over here I've kind of got 3, and the plant's kind of ground to a halt. I have got some sort of flowers forming here, but to be honest with you, it looks like the flowers are dying back. It doesn't look like they're actually going to produce any fruit. So seemingly we started off okay, you know, and then we got to here and the plant started to kind of fall over a little bit, and then we've just got the one little tomato there, and then the next flowering truss, fruit truss, just doesn't seem to have anything on it worth talking about. But it's seemingly as though, you know, we started the year off okay, you know, because we've got nice loads of fruit at the bottom, as you can see, which are now starting to go. But as we move up the plant, you know, the crop is considerably less impressive, and I think that's kind of common all the way around, apart from this one cherry here. As you can see, that's got fruit all the way up it, and even at the top here, you know, we've got plenty of fruit coming. And a couple over here, those are still flowering, and we've got some more up here. But the cherry ones seem to have done really well. Cucumbers are doing reasonably well. I've actually had to tell this one back here because it was pulling the vine down, but as you can see, that's sort of, in the last week or so, that's kind of grown about that much. This one here has really taken off. It's grown from about here, and it's grown all of that this week, so that's doing really well. But those are the tomatoes on the inside. What I'll do is I'll just quickly show you the ones outside, and these seem to have done better outside. I think it's probably because of the temperature. As you can see, these have got sort of reasonably sort of steady amounts of fruit going up. Even the fruit trusses at the top of the plant seemingly have plenty of fruit on, as much as the bottom really. So I think it's probably temperature, because the ones outside have obviously been a little bit cooler than the top ones. But that's basically the tomatoes in the greenhouse. The pepper, unfortunately, seems to have some kind of problem. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's damp that's caused that. It's a little bit of damp or whatever, but basically as soon as I've taken this little pepper off here, I'm going to chuck this plant away. So that's the greenhouse as it is this week. I think it's the 15th of August today.
So I hope this episode has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you, and I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Lawn and Garden.